and must have washed it a bit too hard or something. But yeah, it's gotten a lot shorter. And then I moved into more boxing. I really got into the Western boxing, loved boxing. And it was about that time that I started door work. So I was about, I did my first shift when I was 16, but I started about 18. And
When you say door work,
bouncing, yeah. So nightclub security, that kind of thing. Yeah.
16?
16 was my first shift.
How much your work
Well, I wasn't very streetwise, and I was very young looking. To be honest, my first shift, my first real work, I was 18, and I still looked. Well, Lou's with me now on this trip, and Lou's seen some pictures of me when I was 17, and she thought I was 14. I looked like a glass collector. It's why I got into so much trouble. You know, I'm telling people to see their drinks off and leave the bar, and they think I should just be collecting glasses. So I guess that's why I got into so much grief. But it was at that time then that I realised that I was either arguing with people or hitting them. And there was no middle ground, and I didn't feel very confident with grabbing people and manhandling them. I felt confident banging them out, but I thought there's got to be somewhere in between. And so we started to get more into the grappling and more the wrestling arts, the Greco, freestyle. Jeff was doing some judo at the time. He got his first dan in judo. So whatever Jeff kind of went off and studied, our club became that art. So we suddenly became judo players every session, and that really helped. I loved the wrestling, got heavily into that, but I actually enjoyed the fact that it helped my punching game. Gave me a lot more confidence with that, because I didn't mind if I missed. I didn't mind if it didn't have the effect, because I thought, well, if the guy grabs me, that's cool as well. And so that's where I've been for a long time, really, just really focusing on that until probably a couple of years ago now. I got introduced and invited to train with a guy called Terry Barnett, who's JKD guy. He's one of Dan in the Santos instructors in the UK. He's big friends with Rick Young and Rick Fay, who's MKG in Minnesota over here. And I got introduced to Terry, and I'll be totally honest, the JKD thing, from where I'd come, always seemed quite a soft, almost something that would be studied by the kind of academic. It always looked like there's far too many techniques, very complex, difficult to learn, and I just like to bang things, you know, like very gross motor function, dead easy stuff, and actually been totally blown away by it, partly because there's still Western boxing in the JKD. We do a sole boxing session. We do Muay Thai, which I'd done some before, but not at this level. And so that's changed my karate game slightly. I'm trying to get out of years of karate muscle memory with my kicks into some more Muay Thai style kicks, just because I love the low leg kicking. I love the effect it has, particularly when you're fighting people that can't kick. So that's kind of changed my game, and I've also been able to indulge a little bit in some of the stick work, some of the Kali, some of the, and some of the Filipino, the Panatukan, the dirty boxing, which is, some of that's totally new to me, and yet some of it I've realised actually I did some of that with the Greco wrestling. It's very similar to some of my clinch and pummeling work, but it's just that's changed my game. Partly changed my game just with the friendship that I've forged with Terry himself, because the way he teaches, it's a different style. And so I think sometimes you can study the same art but just get a different instructor is like studying a different art. Watching the way Terry moves, the way Jeff moves, that both equal level but different. And so it's just given me other alternatives, other options, and it's really changed my game. Certainly all the stick work has changed my balance, my footwork, my timing, my distancing. And so it's just, and to be honest, it's just back to being a white belt again that I think is the best thing. Being in the karate, we always used to line up white belt effectively. If you're facing out, white belt to the left. So you always looked up the class to the black belts, and gradually you work your way up there. And I just enjoy being in a class where I'm looking right all the time. I like being back at the beginning, because I know that then I'm learning again, and there's a whole new world out there for me to grasp. So this is great, because I'm in a private class, instructors only, people with fantastic backgrounds. We've got doctors from the army. We've got Demi Moore's bodyguard that she has in the UK. There's this whole random collection of people, all professionals, all from different backgrounds, but grossly talented martial artists. And so it's great, because I just can't help but get better when I'm getting the rub off those people. So for me, that's really where I am. I'm enjoying the JKD. Jerry's just given me an instructorship with him, so that's really cool. Something I don't think I'm anywhere near ready for, and that was why he said I should have it. So I love that whole JKD, the philosophy, you know. And it was interesting what you were saying earlier about it's in people. You're really there to try and help them find it. And I think it was Terry that told me, Dan in Santo says something, that a good instructor should create an environment where knowledge shows itself. And I just think that's a brilliant way of looking at it, that it's in everyone. It's just your job to help them get it out. And so this is great for me now, because I've just found like another passion now. It's like I kind of rekindled it again. And it's just dovetailing into what I already know, which is, again, just reaffirming to me how it's all linked. We all have, you know, 2 arms, 2 legs, if we're lucky, and so there's only so much we can do with them, and so it's all linked. And so this is great, because I'm just seeing so many parallels with what I'm studying that's new to what I've already done. So yeah, my game's changing now, partly because of the new arts, but equally it's kind of bolstering what I already had, which is cool. You know, it's all good for me. So that was my really quick answer, Kris. Is that okay? Over to Nicholas.
Well, I think the question was about what worked before in training and what works now, I guess, and what carried over and what.
What do you emphasize when you're there for class?
Like, well, I do extra training outside of the class, and I try to get students on board with that, but unfortunately it never sticks with them. But our class starts at 6 p.m., so sometimes they have work commitments, sometimes they just can't beat the rush hour traffic. But there's always a reason now, so it's difficult for students in this society. I mean, it's not always their fault, but I'm trying to get students on board. I remember when I was in high school and I would go in the train, the school would always be packed before class, at least an hour before class. People are working hard. The instructor himself is working hard. He's already shirt full of sweat, and he just keeps going at it all the way until class. That's the type of environment I'm trying to promote, but it's difficult when it turns out being just me there practicing, maybe 1 or 2 other students from time to time. But it's really one of those things that you need momentum in. So as you get more and more people on board, then the momentum starts to carry itself.
So are you spending your time on, training and spending time on Tai Chi? What are you thinking right now? What about you?
At the moment, I'm trying to work some conditioning, so some extra conditioning drills. The students in my class will say I do a pretty good deal of conditioning in my class as it is, but I'm trying to push that to the next level to do a little more. And things that I'm working on are just a few new sequences, and working on my old stuff as well. Because every time I pass a test and become qualified, I will say qualified in quotes, because you realize how much of the thing you just tested and passed just hasn't been trained yet, hasn't been explored in depth, and you can always take it deeper and deeper. There is no ending level, and I think this generation doesn't see that as easily as the generations before did. It's really an infinite process, but people are really looking for that final stage now. It's like, I have that qualification, and they either stop training entirely, or they decide that it's that they're good enough, So it's difficult, and I talk about trying to be inspiring to the students. So I think that I do inspire people if I train hard, if I'm always pushing myself harder than the rest of the class. But I think a lot of the students in this day and age are more intimidated than inspired, and that's what I'm trying to find a better balance to. But that's why I don't run my classes as like just total wipeout from beginning to end, because students would just be like totally drained by the end. But at the same time, I think they need that sometimes. It's good for them. Some of that physical exertion and that suffering together, when you're in a group and you're suffering together, I think you really do form a bond. And before class, I'm usually just the only one there, and it's disappointing to me to see the way the generations have changed. I've seen many generations come through